Cell 247B in the Federal Correctional Institution hadn't changed Elena Chen. The 14 months of staring at gray walls had crystallized who she'd always been. A survivor. Her cellmate, Maya Torres, serving 5 years for art forgery, watched Elena's nightly ritual with quiet understanding. Every evening, Elena would trace complex trading algorithms in the condensation on their small window, her finger moving with fierce precision until the equations faded like ghosts. "You're doing it wrong, Shika," Maya said one night, her dark eyes knowing. "Revenge is like my forgeries. Rush the details, you get caught, but perfect the brushstrokes." She let the wisdom hang there, unfinished. Now, 6 weeks after her release, Elena sat in her tiny apartment above Wong's 24-hour laundromat in Queens, the rhythm of industrial washing machines below matching her heartbeat. The space was barely 400 square feet, with water stains mapping the ceiling like bitter constellations. Her parole officer had called it a fresh start. Elena called it surviving. The laptop before her, purchased from a pawn shop with her prison discharge money, hummed as she typed, her fingers dancing across keys in the gray pre-dawn light. Line by line, she reconstructed ORACLE's code from memory. Not because she wanted it back, that version belonged to her betrayers now. She coded because it was the only time the panic attacks subsided, the only moment when she felt like herself. Jenny Wu, her supervisor at DataCorp, would call out during the day, and Elena would respond, dutifully entering shipping manifests into endless spreadsheets. The name felt like an ill-fitting mask, but it was the only identity that would hire a convicted felon. Her coworkers avoided eye contact, warned by whispered rumors of her past. She'd caught them Googling her name once, huddled around a monitor. The headlines still burned. Wonderkind banker convicted of fraud. Rising stars fall from grace. Morrison and Roberts survives rogue trader scandal. Her studio's walls were bare except for one item, a printout of Morrison and Roberts' stock price, climbing higher with each successful ORACLE trade. Every morning, she updated the number in red ink, each digit a reminder of what they'd stolen. Her grandmother's jade pendant, the only possession she'd kept, lay cool against her chest, its weight anchoring her to reality when the memories threatened to overwhelm. The panic attacks came without warning. Tonight's hit as she microwaved instant ramen, her dinner for the third straight day. Her hands shook, breath shortened, the fluorescent kitchen light suddenly too bright, too harsh. Elena slid down the wall, hugging her knees, forcing herself to focus on the laundromat's rhythm below. Wash, spin, rinse, repeat. Like revenge, she thought, remembering Maya's words, a cycle that needed perfect timing. Through her window, Manhattan's skyline glittered, the Morrison and Roberts building standing tallest among its peers. Elena watched it until her breathing steadied, until the code in her mind aligned like stars finding their constellations. She'd lost everything, but she'd gained something too, the invisible advantage of being underestimated, forgotten, assumed broken. They'd taken her future, but they'd forgotten that sometimes rock bottom was just another word for foundation. Catherine Parks strode through Morrison and Roberts' satellite office in Jersey City, her Louboutin heels clicking against marble floors that had never known Elena Chen's footsteps. The transformation was more than physical. Gone were the nervous gestures and humble demeanor of Jenny Wu. Catherine carried herself with the calculated confidence of a woman who knew exactly how much she was worth, and exactly how to make others pay it. The system audit will take approximately 3 weeks, she informed the department head, her voice carrying just enough West Coast tech authority to command respect. Elena watched his eyes glaze slightly at her technical jargon, noting how easily people accepted expertise when it came wrapped in designer clothes and corporate buzzwords. But it was after hours when the real work began. Elena, still wearing Catherine's face, but now moving with her own purpose, slipped through the quiet offices. Dr. Torres's training had been thorough, every security camera's blind spot mapped, every night guard's routine memorized. The USB drive around her neck contained programs that could crack Morrison and Roberts' internal servers, but the real treasures were analog. Sarah's filing cabinet yielded its secrets to lock-picking skills learned from Maya. Inside, Elena found what Torres had suspected: NDAs. Dozens of them. Each represented a different innovator, their ideas acquired by Morrison and Roberts through a sophisticated dance of legal pressure and hidden threats. Elena photographed each document, her hands steady even as her anger burned. Michael's private server proved harder to crack, but Elena had spent months studying his coding patterns. His password, still her birthday. The irony wasn't lost on her: unlocked folders of stolen source code. The true purpose of ORACLE became clear. It wasn't just using her algorithm, it was combining it with other stolen innovations, creating a hybrid monster of artificial intelligence that made its predictions even more powerful. But it was the discovery in James's encrypted emails that stopped her heart. A correspondence thread with Simon Webb, a young quant whose trading algorithm had shown promise similar to ORACLE's. The emails tracked a familiar pattern: praise, mentorship, betrayal. The final message was from Simon's sister, a furious, grief-stricken accusation. Simon had taken his life 3 days after Morrison and Roberts claimed ownership of his work. Elena sat in the dark office, the city lights casting shadows across her borrowed face. She pulled up an image on her phone. Simon's LinkedIn profile, his eager smile so similar to how she'd once looked at James. The jade pendant felt heavy against her chest as she added his photo to a growing digital wall of victims. This wasn't just about her anymore. Each face represented a broken dream, a stolen future. Some had rebuilt their lives in obscurity. Others, like Simon, hadn't survived the fall. Elena thought of Maya's words about forgery and perfection, but now they carried new meaning. She wasn't just planning revenge, she was constructing justice, one meticulous piece at a time. Her phone buzzed, a message from Torres about another possible victim. Elena stood, Catherine Park's reflection in the window overlaying the Manhattan skyline. They hadn't just stolen her algorithm. They'd built an empire on broken lives, thinking their victims would stay silent, stay scared, stay buried. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Morrison and Roberts Investor Summit transformed the Metropolitan Conference Center into a fortress of wealth and power. Elena watched through hijacked security feeds as 3,000 of the world's financial elite filed into the main hall. From her command center 6 blocks away, she could see James Morrison greeting CEOs and hedge fund managers, his confidence radiating like expensive cologne. Quantum shield breached. Marcus's voice hummed through her earpiece. Their security team has no idea we're already inside their system. Activating ghost protocols now. On her main screen, Elena watched Sarah Martinez rehearsing her legal presentation about ORACLE 2.0's patents. The irony wasn't lost on her. Sarah using the same laws she'd twisted to steal innovations to now protect their stolen property. Money trail locked and loaded. Aisha reported from London. I've identified 37 shell companies they're using to hide profits from stolen innovations. Ready to expose them all on your mark. Michael Drake stood at the control booth, running final checks on ORACLE 2.0's demonstration. Elena's fingers traced the jade pendant as she watched him through the cameras. He'd added layers of security since their betrayal, but he'd never imagined someone could use his own coding patterns against him. Their damage control teams are in position, Thomas warned from Berlin. They've prepared press releases for 17 potential crisis scenarios. None of them account for what's coming. Elena checked the time. 10:58 a.m. In 2 minutes, James would take the stage to announce ORACLE 2.0. The algorithm that had destroyed so many lives would be unveiled as the future of financial technology. Remember, Elena addressed her team. Timing is everything. Marcus, breach their quantum encryption the moment James mentions revolutionary technology. Aisha, start the money trail exposure when he reaches proprietary innovation. Thomas, release the prediction models as soon as he says unprecedented accuracy. The main hall's lights dimmed. James Morrison approached the podium, his silver hair catching the spotlight. The audience fell silent. Phones raised to capture history. "Ladies and gentlemen," James began, his voice carrying the weight of assumed victory. "Today, Morrison and Roberts unveils a revolutionary technology." Elena's fingers flew across her keyboard. Every screen in the conference center flickered simultaneously. James's voice cut out mid-sentence as the carefully orchestrated evidence began to play. First came the documents: stolen patents, forged signatures, threatening emails. Then the money trails, billions flowing through shell companies, each transaction tied to a stolen innovation. Finally, the faces, dozens of brilliant minds whose careers they'd destroyed, their stories playing in devastating sequence. Hostile response detected. Marcus reported calmly. Their tech team is trying to regain control. Countering now. They're attempting to freeze the accounts, Aisha added. Too late. The transfers are already exposed. Press is picking up the story, Thomas confirmed. Every financial news outlet globally. No containing this now. Elena watched through the cameras as chaos erupted in the hall. James gripped the podium, his facade cracking as his empire began to crumble. Sarah frantically dialed her phone, but their communication systems were already compromised. Michael stared at his useless controls, recognition dawning in his eyes as he recognized the elegant code dismantling their defenses. They thought their power made them untouchable, but they'd forgotten the most important lesson. True power isn't in what you take, it's in what you create. And Elena had created something they never expected: perfect justice. Lucky's Diner sat wedged between a discount furniture store and a shuttered electronics shop, its neon sign flickering like a tired heartbeat in the autumn rain. Elena picked up lunch orders here every Tuesday for DataCorp, memorizing her coworkers' complicated sandwich modifications to avoid conversation. The routine was mind-numbing, but routine meant safety. Routine meant invisible. Until today. Dr. Rebecca Torres sat in booth 7, same as every Tuesday, the Wall Street Journal spread before her like battle plans. Elena had recognized her immediately 3 weeks ago. The forensic accountant's testimony had been particularly damning at her trial. Now, watching Torres stir 2 sugars into her black coffee, Elena noticed details she'd missed from the witness stand. The precise way Torres aligned her spoon with her napkin, how she marked the newspaper margins with sharp, decisive strokes. "Order for Jenny," Carlo called from the counter. Elena moved to collect the stack of sandwiches, her heart stuttering as she passed Torres's booth. A silver USB drive lay on the cracked vinyl seat, partially hidden by the newspaper's edge. Elena hesitated. The old her would have walked away. The old her had trusted people, and look where that had led. But something about the drive's placement felt deliberate, like a chess piece positioned with careful intent. "You dropped this," Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper as she placed the drive on Torres's table. Torres looked up, dark eyes sharp behind designer frames. "Did I?" She smiled, but it wasn't the smile she'd worn in court. "Interesting. Most people would have kept it, or ignored it entirely." "I'm not most people." "No, Ms. Chen, you're not." Torres closed her newspaper with deliberate precision. "That's why I've spent 6 months investigating your case." Elena's hands tightened around the sandwich bag. "My case is closed." "Really? Then why does Morrison and Roberts make 17 daily backups of ORACLE's source code? Why did Sarah Martinez create 3 offshore accounts 2 days before your arrest? Why does Michael Drake run weekly searches for your prison records?" Torres gestured to the empty seat across from her. "Sit. Your coworkers can survive sandwich delay. You testified against me. I testified about financial records that painted a very convincing picture. Too convincing, as it turns out." Torres tapped the USB drive. "Digital paper trails are fascinating things, Ms. Chen. Like diamonds. Hard to create, harder to destroy. And if you look at them from the right angle, they always show you the truth. The question is, are you ready to see it?" Elena sat, her grandmother's jade pendant suddenly warm against her skin. The diner's fluorescent lights hummed overhead, and somewhere in the kitchen, Carlo's radio played an old song about redemption. But all Elena heard was the blood rushing in her ears, the sound of a door opening in a wall she thought was solid. "Why?" she asked finally. "Why help me?" Torres's smile turned sharp as a scalpel. "Because sometimes the biggest crimes aren't the ones we investigate. They're the ones we're paid to ignore." Elena Chen's fingers hovered over her keyboard as multiple screens flickered before her, each displaying real-time market data in an intricate dance of numbers and graphs. The Manhattan skyline stretched beyond her 47th floor office window, a testament to the heights she'd reached at just 29. But today, those heights were about to double. ORICLE, her proprietary algorithm, had just predicted and profited from 3 major market shifts in succession. The trading floor below erupted in cheers as the final numbers rolled in. $47 million in profits, all before lunch. Elena allowed herself a small smile, remembering the countless nights she'd spent perfecting her code, fueled by nothing but convenience store coffee and determination. "I knew you'd do it." James Morrison's voice carried the weight of aged whiskey and old money as he entered her office. At 62, the CEO of Morrison & Roberts Investment Bank had been more than a mentor to Elena. He'd become the father figure she'd lost at 12. He was the one who'd spotted her potential at a Columbia University job fair, who defended her promotion to senior VP against the board's concerns about her age. "The algorithm exceeded expectations," Elena replied, professional as always, but inside, her heart raced with pride. ORICLE wasn't just another trading program. It was a revolution in market prediction. While other systems analyzed historical data, hers could anticipate market sentiment, processing millions of real-time variables to predict human behavior with unprecedented accuracy. Which is exactly why we need to discuss its future. James settled into the chair across from her desk, his presence filling the room like cigar smoke. "The board's interested in taking ORICLE global, but will need the right team to scale it." Elena's screen pinged with a new message. Sarah Martinez, her best friend since their Columbia days, and now Morrison & Roberts head of legal, requesting an urgent dinner meeting. Another notification followed. Michael Drake, her boyfriend of 2 years, and the firm's cybersecurity chief, had sent a proposal for enhanced security protocols for ORICLE's deployment. "I've already got my team," Elena said, gesturing to the messages. But James shook his head, silver hair catching the afternoon sun. "You need more than friends, Elena. You need titans. I'm talking about bringing in partners from Goldman, from JP Morgan. ORICLE could reshape global finance, but only if we play this right." Her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind, a memory from 15 years ago in their small Flushing apartment. "Success makes you visible, little Lotus. Visibility makes you vulnerable." She'd dismissed those words then, too focused on escaping their immigrant neighborhood for Manhattan's glass towers. But now, watching James outline his vision for her creation, Elena felt a flutter of unease. She'd built ORICLE to democratize trading, to level the playing field. The titans James mentioned were the very giants she'd hoped to challenge. Still, she nodded. Because that's what you did when James Morrison shared his wisdom. Because she trusted him. Because she hadn't yet learned that the deadliest predators don't hunt in the open. They wait for you to invite them in. The Morrison & Roberts launch party transformed the 50th floor event space into a sea of designer suits and champagne flutes. Elena adjusted her channel dress, a celebratory splurge, as photographers captured the city's financial elite mingling against the backdrop of Manhattan's glittering skyline. ORICLE's official unveiling was moments away, and her speech burned in her pocket, each carefully chosen word meant to honor the team that had supported her vision. She caught Michael's eye across the room. Her boyfriend stood with a cluster of tech executives, his usual relaxed demeanor replaced by something tighter, more controlled. He checked his phone for the 5th time in as many minutes, avoiding her questioning gaze. Sarah, normally the first to grab Elena for a pre-event selfie, had been mysteriously absent all evening. "Ladies and gentlemen." James Morrison's voice commanded immediate silence as he took the podium. "Tonight marks a historic moment in financial technology." The crowd shifted forward, crystal glasses catching the light. Elena moved toward the stage, ready for her cue. It is my pleasure to announce the patent approval for ORACLE, Morrison and Roberts' proprietary trading algorithm. James smiled, holding up an official-looking document. This revolutionary system, developed by our exceptional in-house team. Elena's blood turned to ice. She snatched a copy of the patent document from a nearby display table, her hands shaking as she read the assignees. James Morrison, Sarah Martinez, Michael Drake, Morrison and Roberts Investment Bank. Her name appeared nowhere. Elena. Sarah materialized beside her, legal folder in hand. Don't make a scene. Security's already been notified. How long? Elena's voice cracked. How long have you been planning this? It's not personal, Sarah whispered, but her eyes said otherwise. The algorithm belongs to the firm. You developed it using company resources. Elena's phone buzzed. Her system access revoked. Her email disabled. Her office being cleared. All while James continued his speech, describing her life's work as if she'd never existed. She pushed through the crowd toward the podium, but Michael stepped in her path. The same hands that had caressed her face last night now gripped her arms with professional detachment. Don't fight this, he murmured. There's more at stake than you know. Two security guards approached, their earpieces gleaming, but it was the flash of a Bloomberg reporter's camera that made Elena freeze. This wasn't just theft, it was theater. Every move had been calculated, every reaction anticipated. Ms. Chen. A firm security guard grasped her elbow. Please come with us. As they escorted her out, Elena caught a final glimpse of her former life. James raising a toast to ORACLE's future, Sarah already networking with potential clients, Michael turning away to take a call. The algorithm's streams of data still flowed across the presentation screens, each successful prediction a testament to her genius, now claimed by others. She thought success was her armor. Instead, it had made her the perfect target, and somewhere in her memory, her grandmother's voice whispered, "The higher you climb, little lotus, the further they can push you." 1 month after the Morrison and Roberts collapse, Elena stood in her new office overlooking Central Park. The space wasn't as high as her old 47th floor perch, but the view felt clearer. Headlines scrolled across her desktop. Morrison and Roberts executives face federal charges. Global financial giant dismantled. Tech innovators vindicated in massive fraud case. The SEC investigation is expanding, Dr. Torres reported, setting down a thick file on Elena's desk. They found evidence of similar schemes at 3 other major banks. Your expose didn't just break Morrison and Roberts. It's forcing a complete industry overhaul. Elena touched her grandmother's jade pendant, now complemented by a new symbol, the Phoenix Initiative's logo pin. The organization she'd founded wasn't just another tech incubator or investment firm. It was a sanctuary and battleground combined, designed to protect innovators from corporate predators. Marcus's blockchain security system goes live next week, Elena noted, reviewing their latest project. After his name was cleared, Marcus had turned down offers from Silicon Valley to join the initiative. Aisha's new trading oversight AI will integrate perfectly with it. The Phoenix Initiative's offices buzzed with energy. Through the glass walls, Elena watched Thomas coaching a young quantum computing developer on protecting her intellectual property. In another room, a team of lawyers, led by a reformed senior partner from Morrison and Roberts' old firm, drafted legislation to close the loopholes that had enabled corporate theft. Her phone buzzed. A message from Maya, now working as their authentication expert after early release. Found another one. Young dev from Seattle. Same pattern as your case. The betrayer's fates had been sealed with precise justice. James Morrison faced 20 years for fraud and conspiracy. Sarah Martinez had turned state's evidence. Her legal career ended, but her conscience finally speaking truth. Michael Drake's immunity deal required him to teach cybersecurity to FBI teams, showing them how to prevent the very crimes he'd enabled. But revenge had evolved into something larger. The initiative's anonymous tip line received dozens of calls daily from tech workers facing corporate theft. Each case was investigated, each victim supported. Elena had built what she'd wished existed when she was fighting alone, a shield for innovation and a sword against corruption. Your grandmother would be proud, Dr. Torres said softly, noting Elena's contemplative mood. You didn't just reclaim your future, you're protecting others from losing theirs. Elena's laptop pinged with a new algorithm test result. Not OIVACLE. She'd retired that name along with her need for vengeance. This was something new, built from the ashes of her old code, but transformed by collaboration with other survivors. They called it POENX, and unlike its predecessor, its power came from protecting innovation rather than predicting markets. You know what Maya taught me about forgery in prison? Elena asked, watching the sun set over Manhattan's skyline, that the best artists don't copy what exists. They create something new from their pain, something that makes the world better. She turned to face the growing team of brilliant minds gathering for their evening meeting. Each face carried a story of loss and redemption, each mind now dedicated to preventing others from facing what they had endured. We're not just survivors anymore, Elena smiled, her jade pendant catching the light. We're creators. And this time, what we're creating is justice. The virtual war room materialized on Elena's screen at midnight. 4 secure video feeds arranging themselves like compass points. She sat in her queen's apartment, now transformed into a command center of monitors and servers. The laundromat's hum below replaced by the whisper of cooling fans. Authentication complete, announced Marcus Wong's voice, his fingers flying across keyboards in his Hong Kong apartment. At 32, he'd been a cryptocurrency pioneer until Morrison and Roberts stripped his blockchain innovation bare. Now he was their best weapon against the firm's digital defenses. Quantum encryption engaged, West Coast protocol. Terminal secure, confirmed Aisha Patel from London, her Oxford accent carrying the steel edge of someone who'd lost everything but her brilliance. Her high-frequency trading system had made her a rising star at Deutsche Bank, until Morrison and Roberts sued her into submission, claiming patent infringement. Running surveillance sweep now. Perimeter clear, reported Thomas Klein from his Berlin safehouse. The former market analysis prodigy had been developing an AI-driven risk assessment tool when James Morrison's legal team destroyed his reputation with fabricated evidence of data theft. No digital signatures detected, were invisible. Elena studied their faces on her screen, each marked by the same determination she saw in her mirror. Time to compare notes. Marcus? Their security has 15 layers. Marcus shared his screen, displaying Morrison and Roberts' network architecture. But I found a vulnerability in their quantum encryption. They're so proud of their sophisticated outer walls, they never expected anyone to attack from inside their own system. Perfect timing. Aisha's sharp smile flashed. I've mapped their trading patterns. They're laundering profits through a network of shell companies, but they follow predictable cycles. During their quarterly audit, there's a 3-minute window when OIACLE's security protocols reset, which coincides with their investor summit. Thomas added, his analytical mind connecting the dots. I've been tracking their corporate movements. They're planning to announce OIACLE 2.0, a combination of all their stolen algorithms. The entire financial world will be watching. And that's when we strike. Elena pulled up her own screen, displaying a complex flowchart of their plan. But we need to be precise. If we move too soon, they'll bury the evidence. Too late, and they'll have time to spin the story. Like a perfect forgery, she added, remembering Maya's words. The jade pendant caught the light of her screens as she leaned forward. Each of us has a crucial role. Marcus, you'll breach their quantum encryption. Aisha, you'll track and freeze their illegal fund transfers. Thomas, you'll predict and counter their damage control strategies. And you? Aisha asked, though they all knew the answer. I'll make sure the world sees the truth. Elena touched her pendant. Not just about ORACLE, but about every innovation they've stolen, every life they've ruined, every brilliant mind they tried to break. The screens flickered with data streams, lines of code and financial projections, a digital tapestry of their combined genius. They'd all been successful once, brilliant rising stars in their fields. Morrison and Roberts had thought breaking them would silence them forever. Instead, they created something far more dangerous, a network of brilliant minds with nothing left to lose and everything to reclaim.